Welcome to a new episode of the Extra Buttery Podcast. As usual, we've got a chock-a-block full episode for you today. This time we're going to be barreling through a whole bunch of little news items, including some new casting information, failed projects. We've got some news about a comedy that's getting dusted off for a reunion after about 10 years. And we'll even get into some review and discussion of the latest Marvel film, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the latest from Universal, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. All that and more on today's episode. But coming to you from Toronto, my name is Robert Snow, and joining me from Vancouver is my co-host, Jason Chen. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing okay. It's a bit of a muggy day here in Toronto. We've had this. You know how like the summer it just builds up with the humidity and the heat over the course of a couple of days, and then it just kind of releases all in one big thunderstorm.
I was gonna say, like, when is it not muggy in Toronto in the summer?
Well, that's the thing. We've had this like very predictable rhythm the past couple of weeks where it's just been like really nice and clear, like no humidity for a couple of days, and you're just like, ah. And then,
no humidity?
Yeah.
That's a lie.
No. Well, or like at least like 20 or 30% humidity, which is just comfortable enough so that you're not sweating or any of that stuff. But then it'll build and it'll get really oppressive, like people always think of when they think of Toronto in the summer. And we're all like sweating buckets. So that was today. We were sweating buckets today, but we just had a huge thunderstorm roll through. So I feel like tomorrow will be A-okay.
Even one more reason Vancouver's better. We don't get any of that mugginess.
Oh, you're dusting this whole thing off again? I thought we all decided to agree and kiss and make up.
When would we ever agree to do that? I never kiss and make up.
Well, see, I'm using reverse psychology.
No.
I'm trying to, or Inception. I'm trying to like get that in there, but I guess
no. You need to go a few levels deeper.
Whom.
Yeah, where's Edith Piaf?
Yeah. So yeah, let's dive right on in. I feel like there's been a few kind of little tidbits here and there that have really caught my eye the past week or two. The first one that, and arguably the one that maybe has fans and just regular moviegoers scratching their heads the most, and that would be the casting news around this Joker origin film that Warner Brothers is working on. They've brought in Joaquin Phoenix to play the Joker.
Well, I mean, it's a huge step up over Jared Leto, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, in terms of like pure acting skill, I mean, yeah, you got that going. But I mean, don't you feel like it is a pretty left field choice?
Okay, hold on, back up. You don't think Jared Leto is a good actor?
Okay, well, yeah. That's actually that's a good point because
he's just not right for it.
Yeah, or like his interpretation is just falling flat or something. I mean, like obviously, you know, the work that he did in Dallas Buyers Club was pretty great, and he probably deserved the Oscar that year for his Best Supporting win. But I don't know. There's something I think maybe just in general I react to him a little bit more negatively because he kind of cuts the figure of a pretentious jack of all trades.
I thought you liked that stuff.
Well, no.
No. Okay, I agree with you, but I think he's changed so much since the beginning of his career.
Okay, yeah, I'll grant you that.
Yeah, so recently he's just become this like uber method, kind of like he thinks he's all that and full of himself, and he thinks that his method acting can do no wrong, but really he's just being an ass.
Yeah, and this stuff like from the set of Suicide Squad where he was like essentially torturing his castmates by like mailing them.
I would have punched his lights out.
Yeah, like mailing them like a dead rat or like other animal parts, and you know, writing creepy journals and trying to like, I don't know, do a bit of a poor man's version of what Heath Ledger was doing just privately to get into character as the Joker for the Dark Knight.
At least Heath Ledger did it in a hotel room where he wasn't harming anyone.
Yeah. So
and I think it's a little more extreme than playing a paraplegic and pretending not knowing how to walk the entire time. I think Jared Leto can be good in certain roles, but he is totally not right for Joker the same way Jesse Eisenberg is not right for Lex Luthor. I do think Joaquin Phoenix is the better actor. I just prefer his work and performance a bit more. I think he's a very interesting choice as a Joker.
Sure.
I just have no idea what this Joker film is going to be like or what it's going to be about.
Yeah. And well, I mean, Phoenix, I can't remember which outlet he was talking to last week or a couple of days ago, but he essentially said that him coming on board this project was a little bit of a weird series of events where apparently for the past couple of years he'd been talking to his agent or his manager and trying to like tell them that he's interested in doing a character inspired by a comic book. He didn't have any particular preference on which one. He was kind of interested in villains, but again, like he didn't have a preference. But one thing that he wanted to do was make a movie that was more of a solo effort and make it for way less money than a typical superhero film or supervillain film would be made for. Something in like the $20 to $50 million range, which is like, you know, probably 20% of the budget for your average superhero film. And a couple of opportunities came and went, and then apparently this script was floating around Hollywood about the Joker, and it was kind of not connected to the Joker that we currently know from Suicide Squad and I guess, you know, future appearances with the Batman universe under like the Snyderverse or whatever. And so he signed on, and you know, this one fit all of those specifications that he'd laid out for the kind of like small budget supervillain film he wanted to be in.
The other thing too is I am skeptical of a standalone Joker movie without Batman.
Yeah.
And I think they will have to introduce Batman because one, he's a huge marketing tool, and two, you get more butts in the seats if you have Batman.
Right.
I highly doubt that Ben Affleck will be the Batman in this movie, but I think if you're going to have a film about a psychotic clown villain, you might as well not do a Joker movie.
Yeah.
Because Joker's nothing without Batman, kind of like how Batman's kind of nothing without Joker, and at least like as one of his villains. I'm very intrigued by what they do because Joaquin Phoenix, have you seen Lynn Ramsey?
You Were Never Really Here.
Yes. Okay. So you can see a bit of Joker in that, in the sense that he's a little crazy and he's obviously has very little regard for his life or anyone else's. So there's that chaos element to that. If this is successful, do you really want each villain to have their own spin-off movie? Like, weren't we going to have like a Catwoman movie, a Batgirl movie?
Yeah, there's all sorts of stuff being knocked around.
I don't understand like how they can come up with all these superhero projects and actually legitimately think of good storylines for all these characters. I think Marvel pretty much has like a monopoly on this stuff right now because they do it so much better.
They are sort of running the risk of, you know, I get that WB and DC are trying to, you know, they're always playing catch up with Marvel. I mean, Marvel's on their 20th film already in 10 years, but I think they run the risk of maybe confusing audiences a little bit. And I mean, there is an argument to be made that, you know, audiences are pretty forgiving when it comes to this kind of thing. I mean, just look at how many actors have played the Hulk over the past 10 years. But to have Jared Leto's Joker still kind of out in the world, essentially, you know, Leto's going to reprise the character for a movie with himself and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn at some point in the next couple of years. So the Joaquin Phoenix one will be out there as well, but obviously, like Joaquin Phoenix, he's older than Jared Leto, so there's only so much they can do to kind of like, you know, make an origin film that seems like it still fits. You know, I don't know. Some people think that this isn't even going to share the same continuity with the other WB DC movies.
Weren't we going to have a Harley Quinn film too? Is that still going on?
Jared Leto's going to do one with Margot Robbie there. And now apparently Margot Robbie is also producing her own team-up film with all-female superheroes and supervillains.
This is just so messy.
And they just announced the character list today, and it includes, like, you know, fan favorites like the Huntress and Black Canary and a couple of other like C and D list characters. Because like Margot Robbie is on that project as a producer, she's kind of like driving the thing forward, and I think they're going to call it like Gotham City Sirens or something.
Oh, okay, yeah, I heard about Gotham City Sirens. I didn't realize it was about them. But at the same time, like, doesn't that sound like ridiculously stupid to you?
Well, it just sounds like, I mean, it doesn't sound the actual story itself doesn't sound stupid, but I think there's a high margin for error, like just, you know, having all of these loosely connected stories out in the world rather than the really tightly mapped out Marvel thing that we know.
Well, I'm okay with all these things being mapped out as long as the films are good on their own.
But what do you make of like the fact that Todd Phillips is directing the Joaquin Phoenix one?
That's an interesting choice.
I mean, not to like rule him out, just because people know him best from the Hangover movies, and he's a producer as well. But, I mean, obviously, he's very comfortable in the studio system, so it's not like Warner Brothers is bringing in some indie film director and like kind of thrusting them into the spotlight of Hollywood and seeing what they can do.
Which is interesting in that, can Joaquin Phoenix perform in a studio structure?
I don't know.
Like, he's very anti-establishment.
Yeah, and he, like, really definitely so. Like, I read something where it was like a back and forth interview that he and Will Ferrell were doing. And it was really interesting because...
Interesting pair.
And Will Ferrell took it very seriously, too. Like, you might expect Will Ferrell to, like, insert a joke every minute or something, but the two of them took it pretty seriously, and it was just done, like, in a text form on, like, The Hollywood Reporter or Variety or something. And they really got into the weeds of, like, being stars of their caliber in Hollywood, and it was most enlightening to see just how outside of the system Joaquin Phoenix tends to be.
Yeah, so I'm intrigued by it. I don't know exactly how I feel about it until I see it, but we shall see. If there is any actor, though, who like can embody the craziness that Joker has, it's probably Joaquin Phoenix, though, eh?
Yeah. But changing tracks over to another big blockbuster franchise, Star Wars. We've got Billy Dee is coming back as Lando for Star Wars Episode 9.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but I sincerely hope that he doesn't show up for like, what, 2 minutes and then
yeah.
and then disappears.
Yeah.
Kind of like how a lot of these reboots and sequels are bringing back members of the old cast, but having them be on screen for, a quick scene or so, and then having them, just fuck off for the rest of the film.
Some people have rumored, and I doubt there's any like hard evidence to back this up, but they essentially posited that because Carrie Fisher died partway through production on Episode 8, they were initially intending in the screenplay for her to have a decent sized role in Episode 9.
Yes.
And so they're bringing in another actor from her generation of Star Wars actors to kind of fill things out a bit.
Yeah, well, if all else fails, we can bring back Harrison Ford as a Force Ghost, right? Or Mark Hamill as a Force Ghost.
He had Force powers all along.
Yeah, exactly. Princess Leia threw him a bone, made him a Force Ghost.
Yeah.
I really have no real thoughts about Episode 9 until I see it, because The Last Jedi really made me kind of rethink the whole trilogy. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to hold my opinion until I see the entire new trilogy in its entirety so I can make a judgment on it. It's really hard for me to talk about Star Wars without knowing what direction they're going to.
Yeah. And I'm sort of the same way. I mean, I don't want to get too bogged down with every little tidbit that comes out between now and, I guess, is it next December it's coming out? Mm-hmm. Because, so sometimes, the stuff, certainly the trailer for The Last Jedi got overanalyzed to death, and people were making
every trailer.
But if people were saying, like, they saw, I think there was a shot in the trailer that was color corrected very orange and fiery, and people assumed just from that was a shot of Rey speaking to Kylo Ren and that she was officially going over to the dark side, and people were hell bent on that interpretation. And I'm like, it was a 2-second shot in a 90-second trailer. Like, guys, learn how to just
maybe
chill.
They were onto something. Maybe they're onto something. We don't know what's going to happen in Episode 9.
No, but like, this one shot ended up being a shot that was just in a completely different location in the final film, and it had nothing to do with her joining the dark side. She was talking to Luke, right? So,
but also I am of the opinion that movie studios are very smart when it comes to marketing films, and they probably did that on purpose, knowing that people would catch on.
Yes, yeah, that is true.
Make that a part of the wider conversation.
Definitely.
If anything, it seems like films these days are predicated more on marketing than the actual quality of the film itself.
Yeah. Well, that's half the battle nowadays, just to get those butts in the seats.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
Happy to see Billy Dee back, but yeah, won't get too obsessed with it because
what's he been doing since?
not a whole lot. Literally the last thing I saw him in was a walk-on cameo in Lost. And that was like, and it was like season
That's like 10
3
years
of Lost.
ago.
Yeah, exactly. That's the man hasn't done a lot of work unless he's been like steadily. He's kind of become like a Dolph Lundgren who just does every project that's offered to him, and you know he'll walk on as a gangster in some D-list direct-to-video thing.
No,
I'd have
he's
to
just
check his out.
living off his Star Wars royalties.
Okay, so yeah, that's another little bit of news out of the way. I think you were tracking Donald Glover's Deadpool series. Apparently, a little bit more chatter about that has popped up recently.
Yes. Okay, so as you know, I'm really into, not really into, it makes me sound like a loser, but I read some celebrity gossip because I think it's hilarious.
Spicy.
And I think some of the stuff that's rumored out there is 100% true because I think Hollywood's like this alien world that has a different set of values and traditions than the rest of the real world.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, Donald Glover, who is like basically a jack of all trades now, was developing an animated series of Deadpool for FX. Mm-hmm. Recently, it's been announced that show has been completely axed, which brings sadness to my heart because I was looking forward to it. And the rumor is it's because Taylor Swift has stepped in and axed the show. And the main story is that Deadpool, the animated series, had made an episode basically lampooning Taylor Swift and obviously Hollywood in general. Her party, her camp heard about it, kiboshed the entire thing. I don't know why they have so much clout, by the way.
I mean, she's like $1 billion name, isn't she?
It's true. But at the same time, I think she has to be aware that a lot of her fame also comes with like the feuds and controversies she's had.
Yeah, that's also fair.
So she's like super image conscious to the point where it's like kind of frightening to be associated with Taylor Swift. But at the same time, what kind of world are we living in when we're deprived of a potentially great Deadpool show because one person is like can't stand to be poked at or made fun of?
That's really unfortunate if it's true. I mean, you'd think that, and certainly somebody who recorded a whole song about literally shaking off the criticism and shaking off the bad publicity.
Every time Taylor Swift releases a new album, she has like an entire like personality makeover kind of campaign to go with it.
Yeah.
Like she got called out as a snake by Kanye, and she's totally embraced this thing. She's got songs about like her bad reputation, about in her music videos she makes like very, very explicit references to snake or being a snake. And I wonder what kind of dirt she has on FX or like why FX is kowtowing to Taylor Swift. I understand like business wise why they would be hesitant to do it, but I don't understand how she has so much clout to actually like cancel the entire thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you'd have to look deeper into like, FX is a Fox property and like what does...
No, I need Hollywood spies. That's what I need.
We'll start employing private eyes or something.
Yeah. Well, not even that. I'll do it myself. I'll get one of those star maps that you can get.
Instead of trying to like get a lock of
camping.
hair, you're trying to figure out the business practices of
Yeah, exactly. I'm just gonna stake out, be a paparazzi, and dig up all sorts of stuff.
Oh well, I mean, you at that point you can join Deadline Hollywood. That's kind of been their MO for years.
Right. If you go online, you can find some. I think it's experimental footage, not actual footage of the Deadpool TV show.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like traditional animation. Mixed with real life like imagery. Mm-hmm. So certain things are hand drawn, certain things are actual, and it's got like a really cool effect. So when say Deadpool makes a joke about busting balls, there's an egg that shows up and you see it crack open.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Talks to the image that way, and I thought it would have been really interesting.
FX would have been a great home for that show too, because as we've seen with some of their more adult themed animation properties, certainly Archer is a great example of like what FX sort of handed over full creative control to the team behind Archer and lets them make, some pretty dark stuff and pretty mature stuff in an animated form.
Do you watch Archer? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love Archer. I'm totally...
Really? Don't you think it's like the same joke made over and over and over again, though?
No, that's the thing, because how far did you get through it, though?
I made it to like season 3, I think, 3 or 4.
Oh, okay, so there's the thing, because yes, for the first handful of seasons, they kind of stick to making fun of like old school spy movies and that kind of thing. But as they get into seasons like 5, 6, and 7, and they're coming up, I think if they haven't already done 8, if it's not like finished now, they're going to finish it soon. They totally changed the theme starting in around season 5, I think. So they do a whole episode where like Archer and his fellow spies come across this giant load of coke and become drug dealers for a season. And then after that, they do a whole season where they become Hollywood agents. And then they've done the last season I watched, which I think was season 7. It was like Archer was in a coma the whole time, and the whole season took place in a 1930s like LA Confidential noir setting.
Oh, interesting.
With like the huge season spanning references to like Sunset Boulevard and old movies and stuff. So they're really ambitious, and like the animation quality keeps getting better and better as each season goes by. So I'm really impressed by them.
Cartoons made for adults is like a really, really underrated subgenre.
Oh, yeah. Like BoJack Horseman. I cannot wait for BoJack Horseman to come back on Netflix.
I never got into BoJack Horseman.
It is so good. It is one of the most biting, depressing, and dark, but somehow like validating cartoon shows I've ever seen.
So do you watch Adventure Time?
Yeah, I got through about like 5 or 6 seasons of Adventure Time. I haven't watched the first handful or the last handful of seasons, but also again, like an example of a show that kind of Trojan horses you. It leads you in.
Yeah, it's so random.
One thing, but then it starts going darker and darker, and with like a surprisingly weird underbelly. So yeah, I love all that stuff. I think it's great for like animation, and it's back to the whole Deadpool thing. Like, I think Deadpool would have fit in really, really well with those shows.
So like, I'm curious because this is like a new side of Rob I never really knew about. So do you appreciate like South Park then?
No, South Park is one that just totally goes over my head. I've got, yeah,
I love South Park.
Okay, yeah. I feel like maybe it's because I'm not a huge fan of like the more scatological humor or like raunchy humor in that
one. It is quite juvenile sometimes.
I think maybe that's the difference there. But I mean, I have a colleague who's a huge fan of it, and she's explained to me, she certainly showed me clips of like that same kind of like biting, very satirical type of stuff that happens in Archer and BoJack Horseman and Rick and Morty, and it's definitely there. I think maybe it's just the execution in the case of South Park that I don't quite like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See, a lot of these, like half these cartoons aimed at adults, like half of them just go way over my head because it's just too random.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I never really caught on to Family Guy or American Dad because sometimes it's just too random.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, like, I got introduced to basically cartoons for adults like at a very young age. So I remember Beavis and Butthead.
Right.
And I remember, I think it was called Duckman. And Cartoon Network used to have like late night cartoons for adults. And I think it later became Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Everything I remember was at least somewhat funny, or at least tried to be funny. And so I'm very disappointed that we never got the Deadpool. Yeah. Anyway, that's my conclusion.
Well, maybe one of our favorite streaming services will come to the rescue. You never know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So again, total gear shift here. But Zombieland 2 has been announced. That's our next little bit of news on the docket. I think I heard about this and I was like, all right. But then you texted the news article to me, so I have to assume that you're a little bit more excited about that than I am. But
you didn't like the first film?
I mean, I thought it was okay. I wasn't like pumping my fist.
You thought it was
and being
okay?
Just like, well, I don't know. It
was funny.
It was funny, but I mean, for me, I just can't get over the zombie thing. I have a hard time with that.
See, Walking Dead, hard no. Zombieland, okay.
Okay.
Kind of like how Shaun of the Dead isn't okay for me. When you take zombies too seriously, it can really backfire. Walking Dead is an example of where it totally backfires, where I have like zero interest in it.
Right.
And in my opinion, I'm like in the minority on this, but I don't think The Walking Dead is actually a good show. And then you have stuff like Resident Evil, which is just for like shits and giggles, right? Blown up zombies, great.
Right.
But then you have like movies that kind of like subvert genre or like the idea of zombies. And I think I kind of lump Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead in the same group. So that's why I'm excited, because the first one was legitimately funny. Even though it has Jesse Eisenberg, I will forgive him this one time.
Yeah, because normally you hate him.
Yeah, normally I hate him. Depends on the role. But I really enjoyed Zombieland. I'm excited for Zombieland 2 because if I remember correctly, there was always talk about a sequel. It just never got off the ground. And not only that, the same director is back.
Yeah, that's important.
So I like it when they have that continuity. The only thing I think I'm really like super interested in terms of the production is how much these 4 main actors will cost.
That was a big detail, yeah.
Now that they're all super A-list. Except maybe Abigail Breslin, yeah. So zombie movies, I think, tend to be limited at the box office because I think there are people who like zombies for the horror, and there are people who like zombies because they think it's cool, and then there are people who like the action part of these movies.
Right.
I think it's really hard to get all of them together in the same theater. So I do think the box office for Zombieland 2 is a bit capped. And if you're thinking of casting all 4 guys, so let's assume that like Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, Jesse Eisenberg, and Abigail Breslin. I don't know. What would be a good assumption? Like they all cost like what, 15 million each, 10 million each on average?
Yeah, that's on the low end. And then like Emma Stone would probably get more because she's coming off an Oscar win and she's one of the, she's like in the top 10 of like highest paid
right, like
in Hollywood
on average, I would guess like 15 mil for all 4. Because I think Abigail Breslin probably has the least amount of bargaining power.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, Woody Harrelson's going to cost a lot. Jesse Eisenberg's going to cost a lot. So, I mean, like, half your budget's tied up in salaries. And honestly, what made the first Zombieland so great was that because they were limited in their budget, they had to be creative sometimes. And I think this is a film where if the budget gets too big and they've got too much money to spend, it might come to the detriment of the film.
Yeah. And they also run the risk of like, you know, a bit of, would it be fair to say that we're on the other side of the huge zombie craze that got kicked off around the time that like The Walking
Yes.
Dead first launched and a few of the other, like, there was a time when we were seeing at least 4 or 5 different zombie movies a year. And
I know,
and,
and like
really,
90% of them sucked.
Yeah, we're still getting them at like a steady drip, I'd argue. Like Netflix just paid for one with Martin Freeman called Cargo, I think. That was pretty well reviewed.
Did you ever see Pride and Prejudice and Zombies?
No, I was aware of it. It went through a lot of production trouble, and I remember tracking the production trouble, but I never got around to seeing it when it came out. It felt like a bit of a gimmick to me.
Didn't it get pretty good reviews, though?
Yeah, like relatively so, but I think a lot of people essentially made the same point. They were like, this could have been done in a 30-minute, like, Comedy Central special or something.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm not a huge zombie person, which is why I never gave Walking Dead a real chance because I was never interested. So we shall see, but this is definitely a movie I'm gonna keep an eye on.
Yeah, exactly. So for the final little bit of news, I just wanted to touch really briefly on something that I've kept an eye on for like I want to say at least a month or two, and that would be the simmering movie subscription plans that are kind of going around out there.
Oh, yes.
The one that has probably grabbed the lion's share of the headlines recently was a company called MoviePass, which has only been in the States, but they've gotten their share of like good press and probably equal or more bad press, mostly because the company is like, you know, kind of limping along with a lot of investment from like angel investors and VC, and they haven't been able to sign up nearly enough users to make their business model, which is, you know, you pay a monthly fee of $10 and you get quote unquote unlimited movies at a host of like big movie chains, movie theater chains. That's their business model, but they haven't been able to sign up enough users to make it financially viable. So along comes one of the biggest movie chains in the United States, AMC Theaters, and they're essentially aiming right at MoviePass, and they've dusted off this thing called the AMC Stubs A-List, which is a $20 a month package. So, more than Netflix, more than MoviePass, but because they're like it's a first party solution. It's something, a plan put forward by an actual movie theater chain. There's no blackouts. There's no restrictions on like when you can use your subscription, how many types of tickets you can buy. Like you can use the subscription at AMC to get 3D screenings or IMAX screenings.
Who watches 3D anyway?
Well, yeah, but for the people who are forced to, and they're, let's say you pay $20 a month and you want to see a movie, it's only available in 3D. It would be kind of annoying if AMC said, oh, well, you might have that subscription, but you still can't see that screening at that time. So yeah, it seems like it's a lot more flexible, maybe a little bit more expensive. But I don't know, like, do you think that this could be a viable thing for like the big Canadian chain Cineplex?
In Canada, no business ever gets off the ground.
Shots across the bow there.
It's true. We are, as a developed country, we are really not good at putting consumers first and introducing products like this. Part of it's population, part of it's just we're really slow and antiquated to pick these things up. For those that don't remember Nortel networks, I feel like a lot of Canadians still remember Nortel like it was yesterday. Right. So I feel like it makes them turn off technology. But I have to say, $20 a month is a great deal.
Yeah.
Because if you go to a movie now, it's freaking $14 minimum a person.
Exactly. And they're saying...
Well, we're talking Canadian, so it's like $11-12 a person in the States. Still, like if you go to 2 movies a month, you get your money back.
Yeah, and they're saying
or you get your money's worth.
At AMC, you can pay this $20 and get 3 movies a week.
And honestly, these theaters don't make money off these screenings. They make money off concessions.
Exactly, yeah.
If you can offer me this, I'll take you up on the offer right away. And hell, I'll appreciate it so much, I might spend more money at concession.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as far as investors are concerned, these kind of subscription plans are pretty strong.
Well, here's the thing,
correct me if I'm wrong, because it's on a balance sheet. If you're able to sign up, several million users, that is like consistent income. And there's a lot of those subscribers who are not going to be using the full value. Yes. They'll forget that it's on their monthly credit card statement, and they'll be paying the subscription fee, but maybe not claiming all the movies that they're entitled to.
So like Adobe and a lot of tech companies do this now, where like instead of buying a program once, they make you pay for a subscription model, which honestly makes more sense as a business. At the same time, the key argument is that you need a lot of users.
Yep.
I do not know if there are enough people who are willing to subscribe to this service to make it worthwhile. I was talking to people in my office. Granted, they're all like, most of them are old fogies and they don't like the movies as much as you or I.
Right.
They are very skeptical about this, especially in Canada. I just don't think there's a big enough appetite for movies, and I think there's a lot of competition for movies. I don't think movie theaters will ever go out of business, because I think there's always value and a different experience when you go to a movie theater and you watch it on like a giant screen. I think it offers an experience that you can't get at home.
Yeah.
No matter how big your TV is.
Yeah, exactly. And there's always going to be like, even if you only see like, I don't know, what would be like a pretty limited number, like 3 or 4 movies a year, you're going to be hitting a lot of the really big like Marvel and Star Wars releases, because you want to see that around about the same time as everybody else, maybe to avoid spoilers, or maybe just to like be part of the experience. And, and so movie theaters are adjusting, they're charging more for those big, IMAX and 3D type screenings on opening night weekends. And, so I think the business will adjust. It's just a question of, they
charge you more on opening night?
Well, they floated that idea. They floated the idea of like surge pricing, essentially. I think AMC commissioned a study into it. They're not, obviously they're going to play that pretty close to the chest, like what they find out about that, because that could be a really unpopular move if they do it the wrong way. But yeah, like, they are investigating ways to charge more for the really popular screenings for like big blockbusters, but then also lower the prices for smaller independent films or movies that they think could benefit from a little boost because they're being billed as like a cheaper fare.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It came up with like on AMC's earnings call, like I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago, and it was a pretty tiny headline, like on the industry papers. But
you listen to earnings calls?
No, that would be insane. That would be way too.
They're
much.
really boring.
Yeah, no. But I saw a report on the earnings call in the Hollywood Reporter or Variety, one of those things. And at the time, like a few people pointed it out and said like, this is kind of interesting, but we'll have to see where it goes. And then there hasn't been any news on it for a while, so I don't know if it's what they decided on that.
I see. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
That monthly subscription idea is more appealing to me than surge pricing. Mm-hmm. I think if you do surge pricing, I think you'll get a lot of fans who want to see it opening night. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who are like, fuck that. I'm not paying an extra $2-3 just to see it at midnight. I'll wait till, like a couple days after because it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like how the movie theater industry is being innovative and thinking of new ways to get people in the seats.
Yeah, totally.
Again, I would be shocked if that subscription ever came to Canada. I'm lucky in the sense that whenever I go to the movies or with my buddies, they usually, especially if there's assigned seating, they usually let me buy it. So I get all the scene points. So I build up scene points a lot faster than most people.
Right.
So I get free movies every now and then, which is great.
Yeah.
And thank you to my friends who let me do that for them.
They're probably like, oh, what am I going to do with scene points? I'll give them to Jason.
Yeah, exactly. They don't care.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is that I don't play the pre-show games that they do.
No, see, that's my world.
Yeah, I can't believe you do it. I just unreal, Rob. Unreal.
You're learning all kinds of new things about me today. My taste in mature animation and
I know you've grown so much, Rob. You've grown so much.
Yeah. So this is my official call out to Cineplex and say I will trade the whole scene points structure. You can even take time play if you bring in a subscription model because I will use it. I will even pay for the friggin' gold tier of it.
I will use it so much you will lose money on this Cineplex.
And there are others out there like us in Canada.
Yes.
Trust us.
Yes.
Maybe just in Vancouver and Toronto, but whatever. All right. So with that about does it for the little news tidbits, little one-offs. But maybe we should talk about some of the new stuff we've seen recently.
Actual movies.
Yeah. Rather than just the, little things. So Ant-Man and the Wasp.
The only chance we've got is both of you. Ant-Man and the Wasp teaming up.
Follow my lead.
She seems more intense.
Yeah.
So let's get started with your take on it. What did you think?
I liked it. I thought it was very similar to the first in a lot of instances. Evangeline Lilly, I've decided I will marry her.
Oh, she's being joined. Okay, she's joining the official list of sister wives, is she?
She was always kind of on the fringe, and then she did The Hobbit, and I was like, no, forget it.
She got demoted.
But then I was like, oh, it's not your fault you got written into that stupid love triangle, so I'll forgive you. But she was, I think, legitimately the best part about the Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yes.
I think it's a very enjoyable film. I think there are a little too many Paul Rudd average Joe moments.
Okay.
But at the same time, I liked how it ties into Infinity War, actually. So make sure you stay for the end credits, because what got me most was the crowd's reaction to it.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised to see, but it was nice to see the crowd react that way, the way they did. I think the humor's there. I think it's nice that we're not trying to save the goddamn world.
Yes, this was my biggest thing from this one.
Overall, I enjoyed it. It's not great. It's not my most favorite Marvel film. I think it's a nice little summer movie. In the annals of MCU, it'll probably be forgotten. But we shall see what the quantum realm holds for us in future films.
Exactly. Well, I mean, for me, I'm probably putting it in the top 10 of Marvel films. That might be a controversial opinion, but I love the Marvel.
Is that really controversial, though?
Okay, well, what if I put it at number 5 or number 6?
All right, fine. Go through the list. I need to hear this list.
Now you're putting me on the spot. I don't know what to do. I'm going to screw it up.
Well, you said number 6. What's the 5 before it?
Okay.
Ragnarok?
Guardians of the Galaxy, Ragnarok.
Black Panther? Infinity War?
No.
Civil War?
No. First Iron Man, maybe?
You need 2 more. You need 2 more.
Captain America, the first Captain America.
Okay, and you still need
That's
one more.
number 4.
The first Ant-Man?
Yeah, first Ant-Man. Let's do that.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So that's, that's just a ridiculous top of my head type of list. But all of that to say that I like these types of Marvel films that are as separated as possible from the larger Avengers Infinity War narrative as they can be, especially when it's this particular type of hero who, I feel like the Ant-Man universe kind of unlocks the total like wackiness and infinite potential of comic books in a way that a lot of the other heroes don't. Like just the fact that you have all of these like big sight gags of like, Pez dispensers growing to gigantic size and like knocking over a motorcycle assassin and giant ants playing drum machines and stuff like that. It's just so out there and harkens back to the crazy stuff that happens in the comics.
I was going to say, the de-aging CGI they've used has improved so much since the first Ant-Man.
It's almost creepily accurate now.
I know. I got to say, like, Michelle Pfeiffer, she looks great now. She could be my wife as well. I'm always happy to take on Michelle Pfeiffer. But the fact that she only needs to be de-aged like 10 years or 20 years in the movie.
Right.
She looked really good. They were smart enough to keep Michael Douglas in the shadows in that one because he's harder to de-age.
Yeah, they're taking a few more decades off him.
Yeah, but like the de-aging technology looks way better than all the Star Wars stuff. Definitely the first Ant-Man. Mm-hmm. I am very happy that they're still introducing new characters into the MCU. I do appreciate that, especially ones that are different, because a lot of times, especially in like X-Men, they introduce characters that have like the same superpowers as characters before them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm glad we got to see Ghost. I'm glad to see we finally got to meet Janet Van Dyne. So Ant-Man and the Wasp are whole together again. And I also appreciated Walton Goggins, who always plays really quirky, funny villains. And
he does. Yes. He's kind of making a name for himself with that.
Well, he's always kind of been like that in the Tarantino films, right?
He had a run on Justified, the TV show.
I think he's a welcome addition, and I enjoyed it. I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as the first film, because the first film kind of was like fresh and introduced like cool ideas and whatnot. Yeah. But totally bonus points for Evangeline Lilly for sure.
Yeah. Well, and then, on the topic of Evangeline Lilly, I mean, this is actually, it's somewhat of a milestone type of film for Marvel in the sense that this is the first one that actually gives equal billing to a female character in the title of the film.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you go back through it, I'm pretty sure this is the first one to actually put a female hero front and center in that way. Admittedly, they haven't had a solo female hero film yet. They're still
not even for Scarlett Johansson. They didn't do that.
No, they haven't done anything with Black Widow.
Good. She's a terrible character.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's jury's out on whether she would make a good film anyway. But
no.
But yeah, just in general, like Marvel's had a bit of a bad track record with female characters and, or at least putting them front and center in this way.
I thought Joss Whedon was supposed to correct that.
Oh yeah. I don't think he's your white knight anymore.
Never.
But yeah, so it kind of steps up on that front, and it does it in a pretty like detailed way, because it's not just the matter of like, actually having a female hero there in the title, but a lot of the film really revolves around the relationships between mothers and daughters too. So we get like, the disappearance of Janet Van Dyne has a pretty big impact on Hope Van Dyne, it causes a bit of a rift between her and her father in the first film, but then they kind of mend that relationship towards the end of the first film, and she sees this opportunity to become the Wasp. And then, she takes on that mantle in this second film. But then you set that against what happens to the main villain in this movie, Ghost. She loses her mother and her father in an accident when she's very young, but decides to go the supervillain route. So there's kind of like a nature-nurture kind of thing going on here. I mean, admittedly, the movie doesn't give it a lot of time because it's a Marvel movie. It's not going to be getting into any kind of like indie drama type of pathology or anything like that. But I thought it was kind of like that there is that dimension in the background of this movie.
So, spoiler alert. So, skip the next like minute or so if you don't want to.
Yeah.
How does friggin' Michelle Pfeiffer heal Ghost by just touching her head?
I mean, they're at the last 10 minutes of the movie at that point. I guess they kind of skipped stuff.
I hate how Marvel does this. Like, they're just like, oh, movie's got to end. Let's just think of a way to end this. Let's do it. Let's go. Okay, bye.
She has magic quantum powers.
Oh, my God. And you know that the whole being able to put back together fractured people is going to tie into putting back together all those characters that died in Infinity War.
Maybe. I mean, but isn't she one of the characters who gets dusted in that mid-credit scene?
Yeah, but then Ant-Man collects that energy thing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It'll all come together.
It'll all figure itself out, yeah. But yeah, so you were saying that when that mid-credit scene does play at the screening you were at.
Wait, there's a mid-credits and an end credits?
Well, yeah, there was an end credit scene with like one of the friggin' giant ants just playing a riff on the drum machine.
I missed that.
It was stupid. I mean, it wasn't worth staying through the end of the credits for, but
the mid-credits was actually kind of nice.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was the one bit of the whole movie that did link back to the larger kind of Avengers Infinity War thing, so kind of had to be in there.
Well, but he is under house arrest because of Infinity War, or not Infinity War, sorry,
or for Civil
War. Yes.
Between that and the mid-credit scene, it's goes pretty light on the macro plot, as it were. So yeah, I mean, overall, again, I'm going to put it. I feel like I'm putting it up a little bit more highly in the rankings than some people would. But I just love the universe. I love the down to earth nature of these movies. And Michael Pena, obviously, his Luis is great.
Yes,
the whole truth serum scene is just like made the experience for me, I think.
I love how the Russian guy freaks out.
That's that same actor from Dark Knight.
Yes.
He's like a longtime character actor.
Yes. Oh, he plays like really like disturbed and creepy characters. He was also in Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah. Oh, he pops up everywhere. He's one of these guys with like 150 IMDb credits.
Yeah. He's like Walton Goggins. He's just like, I know him from somewhere.
Yeah. That guy who is in that thing. So then the final movie that I was going to talk about today, maybe just the tail end of this episode, Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
It was all a lie!
The man who proved raptors can follow orders.
You never thought how many millions a trained predator might be worth?
They're gonna sell them.
Not blue. They need it for something else.
What is that thing? They made it.
This is the most dangerous creature that ever walked the earth.
Please tell me about this dumpster fire.
I held off a few weeks on seeing this. I mean, I feel like if I think back to when Jurassic World came out in 2015, I think at the time I don't know, maybe I got caught up in the buzz around it or something, but I feel like I liked it a lot more than it deserved. And then upon like greater reflection and going back through like some of the criticism by some of my favorite writers, I feel like I gave it too easy of a go. So now, like with this one coming out, I heard that it was just dreadful, especially in comparison to even Jurassic World. So I held off on seeing it, but I finally caught it just out of curiosity. And yeah, I have to confirm the initial consensus from like Rotten Tomatoes and elsewhere. It's pretty bad. It's just, it is the same kind of scenes that you expect from all of the previous Jurassic Park sequels, more humans going into the island to do stupid stuff, and literally the exact same like story beats as parts of The Lost World, the second film. And it just kind of builds up to what is admittedly like there is some like decently creepy bits when they bring the dinosaurs back to like the mainland. There's a few scenes set in this big mansion from like one of the...
I remember it from the trailer, yeah.
The benefactors who's like financing this whole thing.
Uh-huh.
There's a few creepy bits there. I mean, I think the director on this one, J.A. Bayona, he's got a background in horror films, including a really well-reviewed one called The Orphanage. So he kind of brings a little bit of that to bear here. But yeah, I mean, if you've seen a Jurassic Park sequel in the past 20 years, you know what you're getting with this, and it really doesn't get better, the more times you see variations on these sequels.
So I had zero interest in this film. The trailer makes it look exciting, but my problem with this franchise is that we've gotten so far away from Spielberg's original film. I do miss like the thriller horror element of it. And I don't know. I think I'm just sick of seeing dinosaurs beating each other up. I wish there were more dinosaurs eating people. I wish there were fewer dumb characters.
Yeah, the dumb characters is a big problem that these movies have. I mean, they do stuff in this one where I'm trying to think of like the heroes specifically, but it's actually the villains who do some of the stupidest stuff. Like,
of course, it's always the villains.
No, but like, there's one guy who's like a total ripoff of the big game hunter from the first Jurassic Park, the South African guy. Muldoon. So there's a total Muldoon ripoff in this one, who's like also a big game hunter. He has this thing about collecting the teeth of his trophies. And he literally climbs into the cage of like the new hybrid raptor creature that's been cooked up for the movie. And he like tranks it a couple of times and then tries to rip its tooth out. And him doing this basically unleashes the raptor and causes all the trouble that the characters have in the full like third act of the film. And you're like, the movie is failing its own internal logic. Basically, we're made to believe, when the character's introduced, that he's actually like good at his job and he knows how to handle himself around big animals. But then,
and I'm tired of all these like animal films where like the new animal is bigger, stronger, smarter.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, really, you couldn't think of anything else?
Well, I mean, and here's the thing, like the whole world of dinosaurs, any dinosaur fanatic can tell you, I mean, there's like hundreds, if not thousands of species for them to draw on. And this whole business of like the past two films relying on hybrids of raptors and T-Rexes. I mean, come on, guys, like dig a little bit deeper with your research. There's all kinds of crazy, weird stuff out there that, and people will say, yeah, the first one was making a sort of a kind of a half-hearted dig at corporate America by saying that, they created the first hybrid dinosaur because people who were going to the theme park were bored with all of the usual dinosaurs.
Yes.
My response to that is like, maybe go get more of that fancy amber and like start cloning some other species, because we've only ever seen like, I don't know, 15 or 20 species so far. I mean, surely there's got to be a few more mosquitoes out kicking around in amber that they can harvest, rather than going with like, the dinosaur that has camouflage, or the dinosaur like in this one. There's the hybrid dinosaur can be weaponized by like pointing a laser pointer at things. It's just stupid.
Yeah. So that would be my biggest gripe. It's just like everything about these movies is formulaic and contrived, and there's nothing new or exciting ever. And so, I mean, I'll only go and watch it if I'm super curious, but there's no way I'd ever be really interested in what I'm seeing.
And like the movie also tries to have it both ways with its approach to like dinosaurs as animals. Like, they're not monsters, they're animals. That's always been the thing with Jurassic Park. So it tries to make us feel bad about the dinosaurs. Some of them get trapped on this volcanic island in the end of the first act, beginning of the second act, and a lot of them get killed off by this volcanic eruption. And you're like,
well, these dinosaurs shouldn't be alive in the first place.
Yeah, so you're feeling really bad about them at first, but then at the same time, the movie flips it around and says, no, they're horrible, murdering creatures that will gobble a person at the moment's notice. And then the movie ends with like literally the characters just unleash them in Northern California to just kind of go wandering around. And I'm like, carnivorous dinosaurs are probably just going to get blown up by the military.
Yeah.
So they're not going to last very long. And then probably the herbivore dinosaurs will get caught or killed as well. So, I mean, is that a positive outcome? Like, I really don't understand where they were going with that.
This entire franchise has run its course. Chris Pratt needs to lay low for a little bit.
Yeah, just cool his heels a little bit. Wait until he gets to take up the reins of another iconic franchise.
It's not an interesting intellectual property anymore. Just like let it die. Please.
So yeah, if you're out there, if you're seeing Jurassic World being advertised, if you're a huge fan of the franchise, I would say like maybe go check it out for the sake of completionism. But yeah, it's not breaking any new ground.
No, and I was not a big fan of the first one either. Not the first one. I mean, the first Jurassic World.
So yeah, I think. Well, just looking ahead to the next couple of weeks, I'm going to try to catch this new Lakeith Stanfield movie, Sorry to Bother You.
Yes, Joaquin Phoenix.
What?
No, the one where he's in a wheelchair.
Oh, don't worry, he won't get far on foot.
Yes. See,
okay.
The two movies about apologizing. This is the telemarketer one.
Yes, yeah. So Sorry to Bother You, it's directed by Boots Riley, who's like a first-time director, but I get the feel that he's in his like 40s or 50s. He's been knocking around the art world for a lot of years. But he's got like in this movie, he's got Lakeith Stanfield, Armie Hammer, Tessa Thompson, Terry Crews.
Love Tessa Thompson.
Just a great lineup of people. It looks like it's wild and like visually innovative and just all over the place in a really good way. So I'm hoping to see that this week, and I'll bring a little report back to the next episode for you guys.
Good.
Anything you're looking forward to before we close it out?
So I'm looking forward to that movie, that Joaquin Phoenix movie. I just got mixed it up with. Also most intrigued by the end of the month, Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yes. I heard one take. Have you seen any of the buzz for it? I saw like a guy from that I follow from IndieWire, who's normally very hard to please, David Ehrlich, and he's essentially putting Mission Impossible Fallout up with Mad Max Fury Road in terms of like greatest action movies of the 21st century.
Wow.
So I'm like, that, the combination of the fact that guy is hard to please, especially with like blockbuster films, and the comparison to Fury Road, I'm like, get it into my eyeballs now.
If Tom Cruise pulls it off, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt for Top Gun 2.
Yeah, because he's working on that, and Miles Teller is going to be playing...
Miles Teller is a very good actor for a cocky pilot.
Yeah, oh yeah, he is. But I'm just saying,
He's very much
he is a wild card. So
yeah, I think we should have a couple more good films to close out the summer. I think it's been pretty solid so far. Like the good ones you expected to be good were good, and the ones that you expected to be not so good were not so good.
No huge upsets so far, but
no huge surprises.
We will see what the last couple weeks of July and the month of August has in store.
Perfect.
But yeah, that about does it for this episode. Yeah, head on over to kinescope.ca. We've always got new reviews and articles being posted. Most recently, got Jason's review of Sicario 2, otherwise known as Sicario: Day of the Soldado, and then my review of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and more great content to come as the summer continues. But until the next time, my name is Robert Snow in Toronto.
And my name is Jason Chen in Vancouver. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.